And think about it. Even if a specific practice worked for your company last year, 5 years ago, sometime in the past, it may not be best for you anymore.
Everything is changing so fast. I
Right.
think about it, people in, people out, technology in, technology out. Am I fast forward?
Okay.
And yeah, you've got the uniqueness of your industry and your ecosystem. And that means you're in constant flux. Find out what we've learned about claiming your company's future when nothing is certain. Join us for episode 416 of Growth Igniters Radio with Pam Harper and Scott Harper.
This episode is brought to you by Business Advancement Incorporated, enabling successful leaders and companies to accelerate to their next level of success. On the web at businessadvance.com. And now, here's Pam and Scott.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Pam Harper, founding partner and CEO of Business Advancement Incorporated. And right along with me, as always, is my business partner and husband, Scott Harper.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be with you again. And as always, our purpose here is to spark new insights, inspiration, and immediately useful ideas for visionary leaders to ignite game-changing business innovation and transformational growth.
And remember, Growth Igniters Radio is only one of the ways we can help top leadership teams ignite game-changing transformational growth. Curious about how we might help you and your company ignite your own growth? Let's talk. Visit businessadvance.com today and schedule a call.
And speaking of business innovation and growth, we just saw that on June 8th, the Wall Street Journal published a ranking of S&P 500 companies. They call it the best companies for the future.
Let's be clear here. The authors point out that they first called it the best companies of the future, and then they said, but we can't know how they'll actually do in the future. So they changed the title.
Right. And also in the article, they said that the ranking seeks to evaluate how well S&P 500 companies are doing on measures intended to match up with future success. They based their analysis on 30 metrics from 20 data providers. This led them to identify 6 specific indicators of future success. And you can get a link to the article by going to growthignitersradio.com, episode 416, and scrolling down to resources.
Now, keep in mind that the list was specifically about the S&P 500.
Right. And while this analysis and ranking can be useful from the perspective of potential investors, we need to consider something that could be very easy to overlook. It is quite possible that the best companies for the future, 10, 20, 30 years from now, are nowhere near this list.
And they may not even exist yet.
That's right.
Just think, 30 years ago was 1996, okay? Amazon was 2 years old and had a net loss of almost $6 million. The founding of Google was 2 years away, and SpaceX, 6 years away. OpenAI, founded in 2015, and the public release of ChatGPT was only in late 2022.
And see how much impact that's had in just 4 years.
So this leads to a question. How likely is it that the metrics the Wall Street Journal used in their rankings this year would have predicted the success of these companies in their early or mid-market years? I mean, we're talking about AI readiness was one of the factors.
AI didn't exist in any significant way even 5 years ago.
Exactly.
So these companies may not even been on the radar. And here's something else to consider. The authors write that the ranking and indicators can be inspirational for other S&P 500 companies lower on the list. But this can inspire something that may be not terrific, benchmarking best practices.
Oh, yes. In fact, benchmarking the best practices of leading companies is actually considered a best practice.
It sounds a little circular, but okay, I get it. Okay.
I've lived through this kind of benchmarking when I was in corporate.
Me too.
And what we have learned together firsthand is that one company's best practices for strategy or execution can be another company's worst nightmares.
Cue the spooky music here.
Why? Because every company is unique in so many ways. In fact, when we've been invited into a company, it's often because a best practice from somewhere else has backfired in their environment.
And think about it. Even if a specific practice worked for your company last year or 5 years ago, sometime in the past, it may not be best for you anymore.
Everything is changing so fast. I mean,
Right.
think about it. People in, people out, technology in, technology out. Am I fast forward?
Okay.
And yeah, you've got the uniqueness of your industry and your ecosystem. And that means you're in constant flux.
Okay. So let's talk about what we've learned can work.
Rather than focusing on someone else's best practices, claim your company's future by applying leadership principles focused on the outcomes you need to achieve your purpose.
And no matter what size your company is, no matter what industry you're in, there's a great deal of flexibility in leading by principles. This allows you to foster the leadership behaviors and practices that are best for you.
The ones that will best serve your vision,
Hmm.
the ones that are best for your culture, the ones that are best for your employees and your other stakeholders.
So, with that in mind, let's talk about two leadership principles that interact in what we call the Growth Igniters Matrix.
These are expansive thinking, the degree to which leadership is visionary and future focused, and human engagement, the degree to which leadership develops trusting relationships with people inside and outside your company. To see how they interact, imagine a 4-quadrant box with expansive thinking going up and down and human engagement going left to right, low to high. As we describe the matrix, we imagine you can recognize companies in each quadrant.
So, let's start with the upper left hand quadrant. This is where there is high expansive thinking, but low human engagement.
This is the visionary quadrant. High future focus, high creativity, high expansive thinking.
Challenging the status quo, thinking of things that other people haven't thought of.
Amazing.
Yeah, we love visionary.
And very much. The challenge in this particular quadrant, however, is there's a lower amount of human engagement. And that makes sustainability of that vision much more difficult.
That's right. People may not understand the vision, they may not agree with the vision. And if the leader isn't necessarily listening to other points of view, they can get tuned out. And without widespread support and commitment, even great visions can just die out.
Yes, in fact, I had a whole keynote around that very topic.
Yes.
So that's one quadrant. Now, in the lower left hand corner, we have low expansive thinking and low human engagement.
Hmm.
Not no human engagement, low human engagement.
Right.
This is what we call the preserver quadrant. Leadership here is focused on maintaining and incrementally improving current performance because the status quo is comfortable. It seems less risky, safer.
That's right. And this approach can be successful for some time. It's natural when there's a lot at stake. It encourages incremental innovation for the near term instead of bold innovation and transformational growth.
But with so much flux and change, being in this quadrant carries its own risk.
That's right.
Focusing on current cycles of performance and growth actually increases the risk of disruption from unexpected changes in geopolitical conditions, markets, and competitors that nobody sees coming and no one's talking about.
That can be sobering. So let's go to the lower right quadrant. High human engagement, but low expansive thinking.
Okay, this is what we call the engager quadrant. Now, maybe you're thinking, well, what could be the challenge of high human engagement and low expansive thinking?
People are happy. People love the
Happiness
company.
is important.
Yes, people feel the company loves them. But with low expansive thinking, complacency can creep in.
Hmm. And think about the companies where leaders have put so much emphasis into engaging employees and other stakeholders in the present, but they've missed emerging opportunities and threats as conditions keep changing faster and faster.
This can also lead to disruption. But we have one quadrant left.
That's what we call the Growth Igniter quadrant. Growth Igniter's leadership pulls together strengths from the visionary, the engager, and even the preserver.
There are strengths in all of these quadrants. But when you have high expansive thinking and high human engagement, you can get even higher performance in the now and in the long term.
Mm-hmm. That's right. A growth igniter's mindset can foster both growth for what's next in the near term, as well as transformational growth for the long term. This is what can enable companies to envision entirely new opportunities as conditions change and also at the same time engage people to commit to doing what it takes to bring a bold vision to life.
We've actually seen this growth igniter's mindset at work in successful mid-market companies. The results can be remarkable.
Yes, and we've seen that a growth igniter's mindset can be even more important in large, successful companies.
Yeah.
When we advise clients, one of the things that often is a surprise for them is the awareness that where they want to be in this matrix isn't necessarily in sync with how they're leading now.
Why is that?
Because in the face of uncertainty and complexity, when you're moving at warp speed, the mindset and behaviors we aspire to can be overridden by our default mindset and habitual behaviors.
This happens to us all. It's how we're wired as human beings. But it doesn't have to stay that way.
Exactly. Developing an awareness of where you are in the Growth Igniter's matrix is an important starting point for reimagining your leadership. This is what can enable you to claim the future you envision as the world evolves.
And that brings us to the end of our episode. Pam, how about some final thoughts?
Even though nothing is certain, the future we want to claim is open to any company, regardless of size. We can learn from the leaders, but we don't need to copy them to be successful. Instead, focus on what makes us unique, become aware of where our leadership mindset is in the present, and engage others in joining us to create what's next.
And that's our quick take for today. Thanks to all of you out there for listening to Growth Igniters Radio. And if you enjoyed this podcast, spread the good word. Become a recommender. It means a lot to us. Just open Growth Igniters Radio on whatever podcast app you use, or watch us on the Growth Igniters Radio channel on YouTube. And write a review.
Until next time, this is Pam Harper.
And Scott Harper.
Wishing you continued success and leaving you with this question to think about and discuss with your team. How can we reimagine our leadership in a way that can enable us to use the principles of expansive thinking and human engagement to claim our unique future?
Growth Igniters and Growth Igniters Radio with Pam Harper and Scott Harper are registered service marks of Business Advancement Incorporated. All Growth Igniters Radio episodes are copyrighted productions of Business Advancement Incorporated, intended for the private use of our audience. Except as otherwise provided by copyright law, all other uses including copying, editing, redistribution, and publication without prior written consent of Business Advancement Incorporated are prohibited. All rights reserved.